Brotherhood, multiplication, restoration. We are Sin Network. We're a family planting churches together. Journey with us as we hear from church planters all across North America, discovering what it really takes to plant churches everywhere for everyone. This week, I'm with Heiden Ratner in Las Vegas, Nevada, to talk about Walk Church. So before we go to your space, talk to me a little bit about the neighborhood.
Yeah, this right here is South Henderson, Las Vegas. I grew up just down the street here, and it's a little bit more of a suburban part of the city, yet continues to just become more diverse and feels very urban in many ways at the same time. So it's a very melting pot part of the city.
I mean, when a lot of times when people think about Vegas, they think about the Strip. How far are we from there?
Yeah, we're about a 10-minute freeway drive from the Strip.
Okay. How diverse is this area?
This area is really diverse. Our city, wherever you go, you're gonna feel that. There's no real majority feeling here in the city. I can speak from experience on that, just growing up here, from elementary school to middle school. I've never known of a majority context in the school systems. So whether that was Hispanic, African American, white, Asian, just seemed to be a strong mixture. I grew up with all those people.
Yeah.
And so coming up right here on the right-hand side, this is actually the middle school that I went to, and this is where our church meets at right now. It's called Schofield.
Okay.
And man, it's been really a strong redemption story. Went to this school as a 7th and 8th grader, played middle school basketball here. I think the best is still yet to come with what God's gonna do at the school that I grew up in.
Yeah, man, that's what's up. Just being here, I mean, is it kind of a nostalgia, just going from, going to school here, learning kind of like your first life in a sense,
right.
Basketball where you found your love and your heart, and now ministering in the same place and kind of where your new love and your new passion is.
Yeah. I mean, it's all coming together. It's something that God in His sovereignty and His providence, using some big words there, just seems to know what He's doing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I love the name Walk in Him for Walk Church, is as long as we just keep walking in Him, He'll keep living His life through us. Jesus has so much more in store for the city. One of the things that was cool this year was my wife and I and our two boys, we walked to the school for our church's annual trunk or treat. And man, that was a really cool time, just kind of pushing the stroller with our 1-year-old, our other son walking, dressed up, and we're telling people in our neighborhood as we walk by, hey, we're going to trunk or treat right here at the school. And people say, hey, we're gonna join you there. We're gonna get ready right now. So I love doing ministry in the community that our church is already in. But one thing that is specific to Las Vegas is that we don't have a culture where people go to church.
Yep.
There's no expectation. On Sundays, growing up right here on this street, there goes a little sign for our church right there.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, man. But growing up here at Schofield, this is Silverado High School right here where I went to, I never woke up on a Sunday morning and ever even had a thought. I can't remember a Sunday morning I woke up and ever thought, you know what? I think I'm gonna go to church. I can remember being here at the school, walking around this track, with a bunch of homies, just talking about life. What's that gonna look like? What's that gonna be? What are your dreams and aspirations? If someone would have said, you're gonna come back and plant a church right here, I would have told them they're absolutely crazy. And that's a cool testimony on what God can do.
Huge their testimony. What's the long-term plan? I mean, are you going to try to find a facility? Are you going to stay in the school? What are you thinking?
Yeah, we're going to stay in the school until a miracle happens.
Yeah.
And that's from my understanding, is that the school has been such a good place for us. We believe the school is a God-given partner that the Lord has placed us in to be a blessing and not a burden, that God has given us for a mission field at the same time. And we're taking serious that Luke 10 call. When God gives you favor somewhere, stay. So there's a lot of different worship paganism in our city, but the predominant one is the Mormons, man.
Yeah.
They are out in full effect, door to door, deceiving people left and right. And that's one of the reasons why door to door doesn't work, is because it's been so, misused.
Here we are in Vegas. Man. Hey, thanks for finally inviting me here.
Yep.
It took you long enough, a couple of years, but
we've been waiting for you to come.
I'm here in your spot, getting a chance. What do you use this space for?
This right here is our ministry office. Everything outside of Sunday happens here. So worship team, prayer nights, cubicles for our staff to gather, student ministry, things like that. If we're not in the city somewhere, we're probably here doing some type of ministry. This joint was formerly a Vietnamese market, and just prayer driving down the street. We outgrew coffee shops and the homes, just needed some space to think and meet and do other things. And God in His kindness drew me here. This is an area of town that I grew up in, and got into contact with this guy, and we were able to lease it from him, and now it's ours. So
that's interesting, because you said it's an area of town that you grew up in, and that's few and far between.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about an area of town, we're talking about this is where you went to middle school, high school. All of that was here.
Right.
So you're in the neighborhood that you're ministering in, that you grew up in. Like, I've never had to really interact with people that knew me.
Yeah. Like
when I was doing dirt. You know what I'm saying? And so, but for you had that, and now like you're going back and now you're inviting them to church. I mean, how has that been for you?
It's been really awesome, because I think that in the city of Las Vegas, we do fake really well. I mean, we got a fake Luxor, Egypt. We got a fake New York. We got a fake Paris. We got a fake Venice. We got enough of that. We want something real. And so me coming back and having a genuine relationship with Jesus, faith that actually has legs to it, was attractive to people. Hasn't completely turned into a church attendance or different people getting saved at the number that I like to see it, but it's definitely happening.
There's never like we like to see it.
Yeah, but man, it's been great. Just people seeing that authenticity and going beyond just a honeymoon stage with Jesus to actually, this is my lifestyle as a follower of Christ. And that's for myself and my wife, who also grew up here. And I just to speak on her calling story just really quick, when we felt called to church planting back in Las Vegas, she struggled with that for that reason. I don't want to go back to where my past is, how people know me. I got a story, you got a story. Can't we start something fresh? And it was really a Bible study I was doing one night on John 4, woman at the well testimony, and how Jesus uses this woman to go back to her home to bring people to Jesus, kind of released freedom into her life. And she said, you know what? If God can use that woman, He can use me. And that confirmed calling on her to plant this church alongside me. So that was so good, man.
Man, that's awesome, man. Yeah. A lot of times when I go and I visit different church planters, people always talk about, man, my city is the most strategic city, and let me tell you why. Yeah. Right? Why is Vegas a strategic city to reach in the kind of the largest scale of things?
I think Vegas is the greatest city in the world, and there's a few reasons why. It's a multicultural city, very diverse. There's a melting pot. The nations are in this city. Over 42 million people visit Las Vegas every year, second behind Manhattan, New York City. And part of the reason is because there's so much life here in the city. Las Vegas is so much bigger than just one strip of hotels and lights. But man, let's celebrate that as well. Not the sin that's glorified there.
Sin City?
Not.
You don't call it Sin City.
No, a lot of people say it's city of sin. We say it's the city of Him, because God is at work and on display in such a real way.
Is that original?
That's an original.
You do? Can I?
You can tweet that. Yep. I want the credit for it in Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
But
can you get credit in Jesus' name? Isn't that giving Him the credit?
Something like that. There's actually been no greater time in the city of Las Vegas where houses are being built, apartment complexes shooting up all over the place. But we're not planting churches at the rate that our city's growing.
Yeah.
Which creates for a real desperation, a real need for more people to be raised up and come out here and give their lives to church planting in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's good. I mean, you know
Yeah.
your city. So, because I've always wondered, like, someone who's indigenous, because
Yeah.
sometimes, like, man, I know my city. I don't need to, like, go
Right.
study it, you know,
Yeah.
versus me when I went to Atlanta, like, I got an Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I read newspaper, Atlanta History Museum.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that for, like, Vegas? Or did you just kind of go off? I mean, I grew up here. I know Vegas.
I think it's a both and. I didn't have to learn the culture, learn the city in coming back, because when I say coming back home, this is home for me.
This home, specifically this neighborhood.
Yeah, totally. And so it's felt very organic and fresh. Yet at the same time, I continue to gain an appreciation for this city. Even the Send Network, we had a gathering recently in the Las Vegas area. We went to the Mob Museum, which is in kind of Northtown, and I'm learning about the history of the mob that kind of had some foundational roots here in Las Vegas. Some crazy gangster stuff.
You didn't know that before?
I mean, I knew there was some like remnants of that, but I never like dug deep into it. Like that's a lot of people that kind of ran the street.
Yeah. Well, I saw Goodfellas. Isn't Goodfellas like
Goodfellas,
Vegas,
Casino,
you know, like all those.
Yeah,
I mean, that was pre-save days.
Not
but,
that
you
we
know.
condone that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's happening.
Well, okay, since you're good and you learned about the mob, other
Yeah.
things. Here's some other things that you may not have known. I did some research on your city.
Okay, come on, give it to me.
All right. Did you know that you have the 12th worst quality of air?
Wow.
According to your own that's according to the Las Vegas Sun newspaper in 2018.
I did not know that, but I could potentially believe that for sure.
Okay. Did you know that there's a 3-way tie for the most diverse campus is here?
That's right. I
Did
did
you
know
know
that.
that?
Yep. UNLV.
Okay, I'm glad. Did you know suicide? Where would you put yourself? Suicide rates.
I'm gonna put us close to the top of that list as one of the most
top five.
Top five.
Top
Yeah.
five. Yeah.
Broken.
It is. It's the brokenness. This is, I think, is and it's also because I'm married interracially.
Yeah.
Did you know it's the second highest rate of interracial marriages?
No, but that is off the chain, man. Praise the Lord. I didn't know that, but I'm gonna go ahead and boast in that number.
See, I'm helping you as a church planner.
I need
so
that. I need that help.
Helping you shape your ministry, do all that. I'm doing that. I'm doing your research for you.
I receive it.
You are at a school and you're doing ministry at a school. Did any of that kind of play into the fact that you decided to be in a school?
A little bit. It was more so for us. We just needed a location to meet. We were kind of in a burden. Like, man, God, we gotta launch our church publicly, and we need a location. And it was while just doing some prayer driving that the Lord said, check out your old school. Go back to where you used to sin at, and see if I got a redemption story for you. And He just opened the door there. The principal met with me for 30 seconds. She didn't have a good experience with churches, so I looked at her in the eyes and I said, we're gonna be a blessing, not a burden. And she gave us 3 months, and we were that for her. We didn't mess it up. She said, I'll give you another 6 months. And again, we stayed true to our word there, and now we've been meeting at the school for about 3.5 years, and our relationship has went through the roof at the school, and we try to live that motto, blessing over burden.
That's a unique choice of words that you use. I mean,
Yeah.
was that like blessing over burden? Was that God-led? Like, why did you lead with that?
Yeah, that was more circumstance-led. I was trying my hardest for us to find a location to meet at when we launched our church in September 2015. I called storefronts, other schools, warehouses, real estate, and everyone that I spoke to at some point said, we don't want to deal with church because churches are a burden. And they said churches don't pay on time, they have the God excuse, they have all types of different, we don't want to kick a church out because they're not staying true to their word and they're a burden. We'd rather just not deal with it, it's too burdensome. Yeah. And when I met with Principal Knepp and finally got a meeting with her, that's what I wanted to assure her, because Jesus tells us in Luke 10, he says, when you go to a city, announce to that city the kingdom is here and peace has come. And that sounds to me like blessing.
Yeah.
And we want to release blessing into the place that God's given us. And not only that, he says, and when you have that favor, stay there. And we've been there, and we've released blessing into the school, and they have in turn blessed us.
Yeah, so what are some ways? You said you release blessings or burdens, like for people, like we're trying to always engage in our schools and in our district and those types of things. What are some ways that you have been a blessing, practically?
Just being very upfront with what that looks like for us with Principal Knepp there at the school. I told her that we would like to bless the teachers with a cookout one day, and we're gonna provide all the food and everything that's needed to make this happen. And here's what we're not gonna do. We're not gonna give out invite cards. We're not gonna try to share the gospel sneakily. We're not gonna try to have an agenda for this time, but to bless you. And I knew she was already thinking about those things. So that kind of set the tone, like, okay, we're on the same page. I asked her if we could wear our church shirts, and she was like, not right now. And we totally owned that, respected that, right? And I remember the teachers going through saying like, man, this is one of the best dogs, one of the best burgers I ever ate. We got multiple different cheeses of selection, right? But what happened in that moment was so cool, and this is when God really began to show me blessing over burden is a model to go for. Is one of the teachers came through the line, got food, and went straight to Principal Knepp, and she was there standing there watching, and she said, Principal, you the MVP. You invited these people, you paid for this, Principal, you brought them here, and you're doing this for us. Man, I love you. This is like helping our culture. We needed this blessing, and you did that. Thank you. Yeah. And Principal Knepp called me over, and she just said, when can we do this again? Yeah. And we have done that same cookout at the school for the past 2 years, once a month. So every month we're on the calendar, we're doing that. That's awesome. And it's part of our culture, it's part of our rotation, and our relationship with the teachers has become less like, oh, that's the church people blessing us, and more of like, we're family at the school. We sit down at the tables and intersect with the community there at Schofield.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. Give me just 2 other ways that you've blessed them, just practical ways that you've been a blessing to the school.
One way is meeting a very real need that our principal shared with us. She said, hey, there's 40 students in our school that are classified as homeless. And this is kind of a suburban area in Las Vegas. I didn't know that there was that many. And she said all types of different stories. Some live with their parents, some would live with their friends, some live out of a car, weekly. She said, I want to set up a food pantry here. And I said, great, what do you need to do that? And she said, we need everything. Can y'all run it and pay for it and provide the volunteers and do this graphic design and signage? And I just sensed God put a prophetic word in my heart when I first met her to say, whatever she asked for, just say yes. Yeah. And that's what we've always done, and God said, I'll meet it.
Let's give me one more.
We built that, and that's been great. Awesome. One more is special for me that I'm excited about, and it has to do with the basketball lane. I played basketball at Schofield. Their coach reached out to us. We provided socks for the team each year, but this year he said, hey, every year we do a Schofield middle school basketball tournament. This year we want to do it with Walk Church. Can we call it the Schofield Walk Church middle school basketball tournament?
That's what I'm talking about.
And there's some financial support involved with that because they need some help, but we were glad to help that. And so, it's the Schofield Flying Tiger dunking a ball with our church logo on it.
That's awesome.
And we got to be able to make that happen for them.
So, all because you was a blessing over burden.
That's it, man. Come on. I think the best is yet to come in that. We're going to still see it.
So you played Division I ball, you went, and then, so how did that, when did you realize that it was an idol? Was it like this? It's an idol, it was a void. Like, how did Christ get introduced into that?
Christ got introduced to that when I'm doing everything that I dreamed of. I'm at James Madison, playing on TV, thousands of people. I'm getting playing time. I got the new Jordans. I feel like this is what I'm called to do from a worldly perspective. Yeah. And through that, I've always had faith in God. I just didn't know who he was. Yeah. I got invited to FCA, Fellowship Christian Athletes. Come get the free pizza and check it out. I'm there. And got introduced to the Word of God and said, what, I don't know what I believe. Let me explore what it actually is that I do believe. I started in the Gospel of Matthew, and it led to Matthew 7:21-23, where Jesus says, all you guys do these different things for me, but depart from me because I never knew you. Yeah. And I felt like it was a prophetic word from Jesus. It's like he wrapped his arm around me in the locker room of James Madison and said, you can do all this stuff, but if we don't have that real relationship where I know you and you know me, you're gonna miss it. And it was then that I realized on the throne of my heart was this basketball. Yeah. And it needs to be Jesus. And that was a tough place to be, But in the context of sports, I really feel like he redeemed basketball in my life, where it was my God and it just became my gift.
So over the course of the 3 years, I mean, I'm assuming you stayed there, right?
I didn't.
There.
Nope.
Okay.
So I ended up transferring. I went to a Division II school in Pennsylvania called Mercyhurst, which I went from cold to colder. And
I'm like,
I know,
Vegas
I know. I wanted to play East Coast, and it was a great opportunity to play. And man, had 2 great years there at Mercyhurst.
Okay, so you went to Mercyhurst. You know, was you doing ministry at Mercyhurst? I mean, what was that like?
You know, I had a really cool moment at Mercyhurst. I'll just share briefly. I'm there at Mercyhurst. Now I'm saved and I'm leading my own type of FCA ministry.
Okay.
I got a couple guys I'm discipling, and I get word of a pastor in the Philadelphia area named Eric Mason, and he's doing a conference with another pastor named Matt Chandler.
Yeah.
I bring these guys up there. I drive out there to go to this one-day frequency conference.
Yeah.
And it's in that time that I hear about church planting for the first time. I knew that God was calling me to ministry. I didn't know what it was. But Pastor Matt's saying, hey, this is the way to reach cities. It's going to be through planting new, effective churches. And so he stays after. It was a small enough group where I got to just talk with him after. I said, man, I think God's calling me to what you were talking about at church planting. And he said, well, what city? And I said, Las Vegas. And he said, well, what's your church? I said, man, I don't got a church. And he's like, bruh, you need a church.
Yeah.
And I said, if you got some direction, and he said, I want you to go find this guy named Vance Pittman, who's the senior pastor of a church called Hope Church, and get direction from him. That's a good place to start. What was so dope about it is I looked up Hope Church. Hope Church is meeting at Silverado High School in the basketball gym.
Are you kidding me?
Couldn't make that up, man.
That was it.
That
so
was it.
You immediately, you went there, got connected. Did you do a residency? Did you do a church planting internship?
I did.
I mean, how long was that?
Yep, so I did a 2-year church planting apprentice. Pastor Vance got in touch with me, and he said, we just entered into a partnership with NAM. And I said, what is NAM? You know, and I had no context of denominational life or anything. And he said, don't worry about it. We'll talk about that later. But just know we'd like to bring you on as a church planting apprentice and help you plant in the city.
All right, so you came here, did 2 years. What was the benefit? What was the benefit of you taking those 2 years? Why not just come and just start the church? I mean, you've already been leading the ministries at FCA at multiple different campuses.
Yeah.
You're now, 3-4 years into your faith. Why not just kind of jump in?
I myself, being such a big picture dude, and I want to just kind of be in the city, in the street, you know, making disciples, talking to people. It's hard for me to be in an office. I needed that structure to where, what does it look like to build a budget? What does it look like to lead a meeting? How do you do a calendar for the year? I learned all those things at Hope and was able to, you know, Pastor Vance was able to just bring me into meetings, be a fly on the wall, and just watch how I facilitate. I needed all that coaching. So much so that after 1 year, I needed another year and was able to make that happen. So it was great for me. Yeah.
So then they sent you off. Did they send people with you? How was that?
How that worked for us was if relationships were being developed there at Hope, as long as we communicated that rightly and those people sensed a calling, they went with us.
So how did you manage people's expectations? Here you are at Hope Church, you have big church, all the bells and whistles. Hey, come be a part of this church plant. We're not going to be able to offer you any of those bells and whistles, but we want you to labor and for the gospel. I mean, how did you manage those expectations?
That's a good question. You know, I feel like just being super transparent, being able to tell on yourself, like, hey, I don't got it all figured out either. I just know we need a lot of hands in this bunch to make it happen. Everything was volunteer led. And so, man, it taught me how to lead alongside volunteers and to go as far as we could with them and to champion them and encourage them. We actually moved from the phrase volunteer team to dream team because we said these are the people that are making the dream of Walk Church come alive. And these are the people that are bought in. Even if we don't got all the bells and whistles, they're here for the word, the community, the atmosphere, the culture of Walk Church. It just began to develop.